Hey everybody, welcome to PixelBlips Podcast for February 2nd, 2013. I'm Andy Ryan, leading the March of the Black Queen. Joining me as always is Let Us co-host together, Dave DeWert. Dave, what have you been playing this week? It's Battle Ogre, Tactics Ogre jokes.
Oh, okay. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? I was going to say, it's Groundhog's Day.
Also, Queen albums.
Queen albums.
All the Ogre Battle and Tactics Ogre games are named after Queen albums and Queen songs.
That's pretty awesome.
Yes, it is.
That's pretty damn awesome.
It's very nerdy.
Yeah, so the last week, as you saw, if you've been watching our channel, I put up a video of me playing Hotline Miami very poorly. I'm going to try to do that every week, probably not much more than a week unless there's a special reason for it. But I have been playing a lot of Tomb Raider Definitive Edition on the PS4, and oh my God, does that game look beautiful.
So did you buy a retail copy?
Yeah, I bought a retail copy. I have a disc, so when I'm done with it, you can borrow it.
Yay, that was my question. I've not gotten to play that game
I haven't gotten to play that game either, and it looked really interesting. Like when the PS3 and the 360 versions came out, and I was like, all right, that's cool. I might pick one up. And then we heard the rumors of the Definitive Edition coming out from Amazon somewhere in Europe, and I was like, all right, I'll just wait for that. And I'm glad I did. It's like, you know, on the PS3, it seems to run at a pretty consistent 40 plus frames a second, so there's not a lot of chugging anywhere. There's you know, the way her hair looks is a little weird because it like lights differently than the rest of her body.
What's it called? Tress effects.
It's not even the tress effects. That's cool how it like looks realistic, like hair.
Unlike
but
Square games where it looks like, I guess that's hair.
Yeah,
or feathers.
I mean, there's some weird stuff with it. Like there's a scene early where she's upside down, and you know the hair on top of her head isn't pulled back all the way, so it should be going like this, but it's staying right here, and then her like ponytail is coming like that. So there's a little bit of weirdness there, and it glows in dark areas. Like her hair shines when there's no light to be shining on it. But for the most part, it's a lot of fun. You know, I was kind of bummed out when I first played it. I'm like, okay, she's got the pickaxe. How come she's not using it to whack these guys in the face? And you have to unlock that. Yeah, like a couple hours in, you'll unlock once you get the climbing pick.
Straight up murdering people.
Well, no, you'll like use it to bash them so that you can get away for a second, or you can straight up just use it as a club and you know, bash the bad dudes in the face. But overall, it's a lot of fun so far. I haven't had any real issues with it. You know, just running around. I do kind of like how
one of many games that came out last year that steals from Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad.
A little bit. It does have like this Castlevania style. Okay, now that you've unlocked this ability, you can now traverse different areas of this section, and it all kind of loops back so far because I'm only in the first, I don't know, 5 hours of that game. It all loops back to this one area, and you can like traverse it in different ways once you get like the arrow with the rope on it and all that.
See, I might get skewered for this, but I hate that stuff.
You don't like how it rolls you back to us?
I don't like
it seems like
in games like that, like story-driven games, like it's cool in Castlevania, it's cool in Metroid, because there's not that many story beats.
Yeah.
You know, I think we both say that Metroid all the way up to now through we won't talk about other M, but Metroid Prime even is pretty desolate. You're not talking to people.
Yeah.
Castlevania, same way, pretty desolate. You're not talking to people.
There is a story reason why you keep going back there. Like, you know, your boat crashes, you escape from being captured by these crazy Russian dudes or whatever they are. And you like find a survivor, like your archaeologist mentor guy. He's like hurt there, and then you wind up leaving to find a radio station and then coming back, and then that area has changed because a plane crashed into that area, and you find him not dead somewhere else.
No, I'm just talking about like the backtracking and traversing things in different ways. Like I prefer, like if it's a story-driven game, like I don't like to always go back to Uncharted, but I feel like it did it correctly.
Yeah, and it's not
it just propelling you forward.
Yeah, it's not necessarily backtracking. I mean, all the areas lead back there, but it's not like you have to go back through the environment to get there. It's like it just conveniently, like you fall down this hill and oh boom, there you are, you're back in this little village. And there's a ton of collectibles and stuff like that, and it has you're examining things and you find little bits on them. It's really, really cool, and I'm really glad I waited and got probably the best console version of that game. The new character face model thing kind of weirded me out for a minute because I'm used to seeing all of the work from the 360 and the PS, because they redid her character model, so she looks, I guess, more model-y.
More polygon-y?
No, more model-y. She looks more like a model instead of the young girl or whatever. But I mean, once you get over that, it kind of...
More in line with Lara Croft as we know her.
But I mean, it's still a good game, and it's weird that all the outfits are unlocked right from the get-go. So like she just, she starts out in her regular kit with the gray, tank top and whatever, and then you can be like, oh, I want her to be Hunter Lore, and she's covered in mud and covered, she's got camo pants and that. But it's a lot of fun, and I'm having a lot of fun playing it.
This kind of brings me to something I heard on NPR the week before last about how we're watching movies the wrong way.
Okay.
And where you, like, let's say you go to movie X,
okay,
and there's a trailer for movie Y, and you're like, I want to see movie Y.
Yeah.
And then it comes out in 6 months, and in that time you see 2 more trailers. You see like 8 commercials. You read reviews. You read previews.
Yeah.
You read interviews with the actors. And by the time you get to movie Y, your experience is basically ruined.
Because you've heard either all or most of what's going to happen in that movie.
You've either heard too much, or you've heard something that you think you don't like that maybe you would have liked had you not heard it before.
So what you're saying is complete and total media blackout on something that you want.
Not complete and totally media blackout, but like being cognizant that maybe you want to kind of step away from something if you know you want to play the game.
Yeah.
Like for me, I know I'm going to play Final Fantasy 15. I don't need to read
all the stuff about
80 things about Tetsuro Nomura saying,
we got
more
this.
buckles. More buckles, more zippers. Like, okay.
Okay, whatever. Character design choices, go.
Yes.
But I mean, it's been mostly Tomb Raider, and since we did our Final Fantasy episode last week, I've been playing Final Fantasy X on my Vita, and I'm 9 on my Vita. Okay. Not 10 yet. I'll play 10 when it comes out again. But I've been playing Final Fantasy 9 on my Vita, and I feel so sorry for Vivi.
Yes.
And I'm not even off the first disc yet.
Knowing where Vivi ends up, like the minute you meet him, I'm like, oh.
Poor Vivi. He's just a lost little black mage running around town, and then bad things happen. So what have you been up to?
I've been playing Final Fantasy. I beat 13-2.
Got the true ending?
Got the true ending, which is not hard to get. Getting the paradox endings, you kind of have to intentionally make bad choices through the course of the game. And I already knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Like obviously. The summation of that story. Because obviously Final Fantasy 13-3,
Lightning Returns.
Even though it's called Lightning Returns.
Final Fantasy 13.
It's 13-3. Like I knew how that had to set up and everything, but the way they do it is so... The way they pull the rug out from under you is so sudden that I felt like it was a little bit of a gut punch. Because I felt like I had actually grown to like both Noel and Sarah and really believe that their quest had come to an end. And like maybe something else was going to happen, or maybe I didn't get the true ending, and then it was just kind of like,
yoink.
But I really did like it. Like I said on my Twitter feed, a lot like Crisis Core, it made me like the original even more, because being in that world more, you're hit with the jargon more often. You already have a basis for what it means.
Yeah. Instead of just being a Cieth, you're like, what the hell does that mean? Yeah. Then there's all these different things going on.
There's like Lusty, Falsi, Seath. There's one more. There's a reason they all have CIE in them, and there's a language there.
Yeah. And after playing through 13 and then playing 13-2, you're basically set up to play 13-3 Lightning Returns, whatever.
Yes.
Whatever the hell it's called.
Like, also Caius, Caius Ballad is, along with Barth and Dantalist on Final Fantasy 13, are now 2 of my favorite Final Fantasy villains. They both hit it really well. Unlike what happened with Crisis Core, where the new villain they entered in, the Heartless guy, I was bored.
Like, whatever.
I was like, well, why am I fighting you? I want to be fighting Sephiroth. I understand what this story is.
You can't fight Sephiroth. Sephiroth died at a different time. You can't fight him.
Yeah. So, a good example with Crisis Core made me like Aerith Gainsborough a lot more than I did anytime I've played 7.
Okay.
So mean. A lot of things people say about Sarah, people also say about Aerith, that she's basically set up to die. She's kind of a cipher. She doesn't have a lot of personal motivations, and then she just gets killed halfway through the story, and she's more of a sacrificial lamb. Crisis Core, I actually liked Aerith Gainsborough. It was even more bittersweet knowing where she ends up.
Yeah.
The flip side of that coin, Sarah's actions in Final Fantasy 13-2 made me like her more, made her actions in Final Fantasy 13 make a buttload more sense.
Oh, that's great. I still haven't beaten 13. I just rebought it, and I bought the digital version of 13.2 on the sale because it was like $8 or $9.
Which is totally worth it.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking what?
That and these Final
30,
Fantasy
40
sales
plus hours?
only come across like once a year.
If you're lucky, yeah.
So 30 hours.
It's 30-ish hours?
30-ish hours, and I ground a bunch at the end.
So probably 25 or 30.
That final boss fight was really, like, a lot of people online hated it in 13.2, but I actually really liked it.
Is that the one on the beach with the guy? Never mind.
Yes, there's one on the beach with the guy, but that's not the final one.
Oh, okay, because I went over to my sister's and she played like the last 30 minutes of that game when I was over there, and I was like, dude on the beach, okay.
Bahamut. You fight Bahamut.
That wasn't it then.
Okay.
I saw the
Caius, basically, his summon, his Eidolon is Bahamut.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. Never mind.
So in a final, like, I'm going to break the timeline and end everything, he summons...
Spoilers.
Becomes Bahamut.
Yep.
And Bahamut then becomes 2 other Bahamuts, and you
have to fight all 3 of them in space or whatever.
Yeah, and how you have to bounce between all of them, it's very tactical. You have to do it very quickly because Bahamut has like 3 attacks that are based on time. How long you're in this battle. Like if you're in this battle for 5 minutes, when you're at the 5-minute mark, he will launch this attack.
Yeah, I remember that now.
Super hard and
you have to
super cheap.
You have to take out one of them and then focus on another, and then when that one comes back.
The idea is you have to. There's 3 of them. You have to focus. You have to get one down to like 10% health. Jump to the other one, kill it, jump back and kill that first one, and then you can focus on Bahamut because the timer starts when the first one dies. And I didn't get that in the beginning. So
and then you just got waxed.
Yeah, I spent like 3 days like getting stuck.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that fight now. I watched my sister play that too, and I was like, oh, that's a pain in the ass boss fight.
So I decided, I was like, I'm done with this. I'm going to go back to the Arclight step and set it up so the monsters are the toughest they can be, and the
grind out on some monsters.
Yeah, the encounter rate is as high as it can be, and then just grind out until I'm level 99 on everybody, and then went back and killed them in the first try.
Good job. Way to power level your guys into victory.
Yeah.
All
and
right.
I got 5 stars. So 5 stars on the final boss. I got the special trophy and everything.
Well, that's because you cheated. No, you didn't cheat. You ground them up, and then they were like 2-shotting things.
But even at like with that extra grinding, I still was only over like I think 32 hours for the game.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, that's a good long game, and you don't normally get. We don't get games like that anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like when you think back to the days of yore when we played games and we were in middle school.
Well, Final Fantasy 6/3 is only like 25 hours.
Yeah, if you power right through it.
Well.
And if you do all the side questy stuff, you probably work about 30 hours into
30
it.
hours into it, yeah.
But I mean, like.
Final Fantasy 4 is definitely not 30 hours.
No.
Even if you ground everybody into the sky, it's not 40 hours.
No. I mean, you could power through some games in a matter of minutes if you know what you're doing. But anyway, so like when we say, we don't get games like that anymore, we think about like the best time in gaming, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people... No?
That's next episode.
Oh.
I thought we were talking about...
That's right. Stay tuned for next week.
Wonderful segue, douche.
Sorry, I fucked it up.
Anyway, let's see what else I was playing this week. I played a lot of Sonic Racing Transformed. Yep. I played a lot of those Star Wars pinball tables. Because for some reason the PS4 leaderboards are not the same as the PS3 and Vita leaderboards.
No, it's different.
So I got emails from a bunch of people saying, "Oh, I beat your score on such and such a table." And
I'm like, I don't play the PS.
I don't think you did because.
Do those all transfer over, or do you have to rebuy the stuff on?
They all transfer over, but the leaderboard doesn't.
Well, no, I get that. I'm just saying, like, because I know the what is it, the pinball arcade ones. You have to like, if you don't want to rebuy them, you have to download the ones onto your Vita and then upload them to your PS4, and then you won't have to rebuy all the tables.
No, what you have to do with if you
I believe that's how that works.
Okay, for Zen Pinball 2, if you want all the tables, you want to buy every table, you want all your tables to be compatible with every platform.
Yes.
They're saying buy them on the PS3 storefront, because then you can import them onto your Vita and import them into your PS4, but you cannot import from the PS4 into the Vita into the PS3.
You can't go backwards, you can only go forwards.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like time.
Yes.
Okay.
So I got a lot of messages from people like, "Oh, I beat it." I was like, "What? Okay, what table and what score?" Because I don't think you did.
Yeah, and they're playing them on the PS4 and not the PS3. So.
And it's like they're like, oh, one guy was like, "Oh, I beat your Spider-Man score." I was like, "There's no way you beat my Spider-Man score. I spent weeks on that thing."
Yeah.
And then so I looked it up, and they were like, "I was like, no, this is my score. Play it on your Vita."
I really wish you could like import leaderboards and stuff like that. That'd be nice.
I imagine it's something they're probably working on. It just wasn't ready, or there's just no way they can do it.
Yeah, there's probably a technical reason that has happened. Anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's see. I'm playing that. Still powering through Final Fantasy VI.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of making my way through, playing it leisurely. Yeah, that's about it. And I've been reading a lot of news sites.
Yes.
It's going to be a very awkward transition into
I'm
our
sorry,
first
I
thing.
screwed up. I spoiled next week.
Yeah, into our first thing, which we're talking about King Games.
Yes. Those jerks.
Trademarking the word candy and the word saga as in relation to video games.
Which, I mean, when you think about it, it's like, okay, why don't you just trademark the or
crush the word between
yeah,
candy and
yeah.
saga.
Why don't you just do the whole thing? Just be the ultimate, D-bag and do that. And they've been going after games like the Banner Saga, which has absolutely nothing to do.
And in the Banner Saga is actually used correctly. Which is the one thing that just got under my nails immediately.
It's like, I mean, because this is actually like a story-driven game.
A Viking saga.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be like a Viking saga.
Candy Crush Saga is a Bejeweled clone, basically. And then the whole claim of, we don't clone games, and then there's like 9 games that are like, yes, you do. Here they are.
Yeah. The thing about this trademark is basically you have anytime you trademark a word, and then you have to spend the next, I want to say 5 years, basically you're refuting anyone that's going to say, no, you cannot trademark that word. So no, you can't sue anyone for using it for like 5 or 10 years out, depending on the period of time. But during that 5 years, you have to actively dispute anyone else using it. And the fact that they trademarked candy in relation to software and not in relation to games means that Hasbro can never bring out a Candyland game.
Yes.
The fact that they...
Although I think Hasbro has a lot more money than King, maybe.
Well, I'm sure they would win that trademark dispute.
So that may not be an issue, but for the guys that made Banner Saga, they don't have that money. So
the flip side is them trademarking Saga in relation to software. There are so many other games that use the word Saga in their title that are already out.
Yes.
That this is what we call trademark trolling. And there used to be a guy that trademarked the word Edge in Super. He also had Super. And basically he would, at will. He trademarked them, so for 5 years he didn't say anything, didn't refute anybody. And then after the 5 years were up, he just started suing Nintendo and Edge Magazine and Namco. That's why it's Soul Calibur here and not Soul Edge. And just went crazy with it, and none of them panned out, I think. But he just stayed, because it was basically if he showed up in court and they didn't, the judge would go, okay, well, you win this,
Yeah, now they have to pay you money.
Yeah, and then the business would appeal it, and then he would show up in court, and then they wouldn't, and then the judge would say, okay, and then they would appeal it again. And it was just dumb. And this is one of those just dumb things.
This is a terrible misuse of power.
King is saying they're doing it to stop imitators of Candy Crush Saga. And that is kind of like the pot yelling at the spoon for being black. The kettle's over here also black, and the pot totally copied the kettle.
Yep.
And it just so happened that King couldn't think up a name as weird as Bejeweled, which I don't think Bejeweled is trademarked.
It may not be. I don't think so.
Yeah.
It isn't.
And Bejeweled itself is ripped off of another...
Columns.
No, it's a game from Pogo. It's called Sweet Tooth or something.
Oh, okay.
But EA already owned the rights to it, and PopCap made Bejeweled before they were bought from EA, and now everything's under the same roof, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, a match 3 game can only be done so many ways, right? And that's exactly what Candy Crush is. And they all have their own different little tweaks, but it's a match 3 game. It's the same thing, but there are other games. Don't they have a Pear or something Saga or whatever?
Yes,
that's
they have Farm Saga. Yeah. They have the Saga is their Vil. Vil is actually trademarked by Zynga. So just Ville is trademarked by Zynga. For whatever reason, no clue.
I don't even know if Vil is half a word, right? That seems like half a word to me.
So I guess no one else was we're not going to use half a word. And then, so King is looking at Saga like that's their vil. It just so happens that Saga is already a word that's in common usage in video games.
And in a lot of languages in general, like
Well,
or overall, like in the world.
It's not like it's protractor, you know?
No, it's not. Protractor Saga. How would
No,
that
but
work?
like
No, I get it.
It's not a word. I'm trying to think of a word that crochet. Crochet is not used much in video game space.
No, it's not.
So it's not even like that.
No.
You're talking about a word that's used a lot in video game space.
And then they're just that. I don't know. I don't get it. Like they're afraid that people are gonna mix the Banner Saga with Candy Crush Saga.
Yeah.
Like 2 seconds in a screen, like a minute of video and a screenshot will show you that they're not the same game. Like
Yes.
match 3 game versus, I believe it's a point and click adventure type of thing, right?
No, it's kind of a strategy game.
It's like okay, so it's a strategy game, but it's got this
Like a strategy RPG.
It's not. It's nowhere near the same genre of game. It's not confusing at all.
And I really
it's the same
think
thing that kind of happened
in
with
5 years, when actual litigation lawsuits, or 10 years, whatever the trademark thing is, when actual litigated lawsuits come up with this, King is going to lose all of them, because
I hope
any
so.
judge with three
brain cells?
three grains of salt is going to go, you can't trademark this word because it's already been used over here for a similar thing and over here for a similar thing.
Yeah, there
It
are
would be
games that
like
came out decades ago that have Saga
It
in
would
the
be
title.
like trademarking the.
Yeah. And we saw something like this before with the Elder Scrolls and Notch's Scrolls. And, you know, the games are different enough.
And it turned out in the end, Bethesda was like, it's not us, it's Activision owns Bethesda.
Yeah, that sounds right.
It's whoever owned them, and the judge came down and said, they're not similar, you don't own it.
Yeah.
You own the Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, so if it said Notch's Elder Scrolls, that'd be different, but it was just Scrolls, and I believe that's like a card game or something similar to that.
Yeah, I think it's like a app card game.
Something, but yeah.
But it gets to the point where like trademark used to be, you trademarked it the entire title.
Yeah, not just part of the title.
Yeah. So, I want to say, who was it? Can't remember who it was, but basically there was a ruling where they ruled that the trademark could be broken up because if it were Sony, it wasn't Sony. It wouldn't have been Sony because Sony's a Japanese company. But if it were Sony, the trademark could have been broken up because the PlayStation trademark, and you can't just, they had the PlayStation trademark, so you couldn't just add 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 and say that it's a different thing because PlayStation was what was trademarked.
Yeah.
Now, I don't remember what case it actually was. I don't know that much about trademark law.
Yeah.
But
It
ruling,
sounds like a murky territory to try to understand.
Yeah, that ruling that said that you actually can't just add stuff to a trademark already opened up the door for saying, well, now you have to trademark everything in your thing.
Yeah.
And it's dumb and stupid, and it's actually that and copyright law are doing the opposite of what they were originally intended to do, which copyright was you make something, you'll be able to profit off of it during your lifetime, and then it will enter into the public domain, and other people will be able to use it to increase art, to make more things. So, but the problem was, the Disney argument is, it wasn't just Walt Disney making Mickey Mouse, Snow White, everything else. It was all these other people.
It was this entire company of people.
Yeah, so this needs to be owned by the company. Well, the company lasts a lot longer than a
the
human
person
being would, and therefore the company says, well, our copyright on that stretches out, so you can't use Mickey Mouse in parody. Well, you can use Mickey Mouse in parody works, which is another weirder thing we won't get into, but you can't put out Mickey Mouse movies that are not done by Disney.
Yeah.
Really confusing and stupid.
It's ridiculous.
So in other giant company news, Microsoft bought Gears of War.
Just the franchise Gears of War, not Epic Games, which I was thinking about this morning. And I was like, wait a minute, they didn't buy Epic, did they? And then I had to verify that they didn't buy Epic, because then we'd never see Unreal 4 games on anything.
The people that made Gears of War, like, if you didn't like Gears of War Judgment, get ready for more games like Gears of War Judgment.
Yeah, because they bought the IP, and did they buy the studio, or because I know
just bought the IP.
So Black Tusk is working on the new Gears of War, and it's been in
studio that they had made. Black Tusk was making a heist game. Is now not making. That has been scrapped. They are now making a Gears of War game, which I imagine you'll see it in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
But if you didn't like Gears of War Judgment, if Gears of War Judgment didn't feel like a Gears game because it wasn't the same people, get ready for more games with that feeling.
I mean, this is
Not saying that games in a franchise made by other companies can't capture that original magic.
Yeah, I mean, look at Call of Duty. I mean, a lot of people, like the people I know that play Call of Duty a lot, are like, man, this new Call of Duty sucks. And then I was like, well, why are you playing that game? Are you playing it for the shooting, or are you playing it for the graphics? A lot of people are saying, oh, I'm playing it for the graphics. I was like, when you're playing on the PS3 or you're playing on the 360.
Yeah.
That was the secondary market for those games. Yeah. They didn't care. They outsourced that, whatever. But those games have been consistently, point, shoot, kill, point, shoot, kill. Like, that was the whole point of those games.
When I say that, I'm thinking more of God of War.
Yeah, God of War.
The God of War PSP games are still very good and still very much feel like God of War games.
Yeah.
But they're not. I mean, they're not made by Sony Santa Monica, which that team is so fluidly weird that might be part of why the God of War games work across multiple developers.
Well, yeah, because you've had different guys were the lead producers on all of those games.
Yeah, Sony Bend making Uncharted Golden Abyss. Uncharted Golden Abyss still feels like an Uncharted.
It does.
It feels like the game that would come before Uncharted Drake's Fortune. Trying to think what else. See, there's a lot of weird ones that, like, Capcom is a good example. Like, the Street Fighter team is very fluid.
Yeah. It's always different people rolling in and out of there.
Capcom.
Yeah. Well, or you can even say, like, some of the Mario games have been done by... You've always had the same, like, top 3 or 4 people in there. You've always have, like, the big producer guys. But the level design guys change out, like, every week. Yeah. And they had those guys just popping out new levels just to mess with stuff. So you can get the same feel of a game if you've got the right people in place that kind of direct it in the direction it needs to go.
Yeah. But now they're not going to have those people in place for the Gears of War franchise.
So
the good news is the one dude that they do have in place for Gears of War worked on the original Gears of War, was the producer on BioShock Infinite, and he is the one leading the team.
Well, good.
So it's good for him to have a job.
Yeah, good for him.
He has a solid resume.
I mean, and I didn't expect that Microsoft was going to straight up buy the Gears of War IP, but it makes a lot of sense.
They had to.
Because that was one of the things that, I mean, wasn't
That's one of their IP that people...
That associate with the Xbox
Microsoft.
brand, right? Like
Xbox. Xbox Gears of War.
And it was I don't know if it was Cleefy B himself or somebody at Epic basically said, look, you need to put 512 megs of RAM in this thing, otherwise we can't get Unreal to work on this. And that's why the 360 had the hardware specs it did.
Yeah.
It was because of Epic Games and Gears of War franchise. So it's been a pretty big part of Xbox 360's history and Xbox One's history.
And since Xbox 360 is the biggest population, you don't have a lot of OG Xbox people. I think they needed to kind of grab those franchises. They need things like Forza, Halo, and now Gears of War.
Yeah,
under
their roof. War,
they only have 2.
Yeah. Well, and they also now own Killer Instinct.
Yeah. Well.
But that's a free-to-play game.
But no one. What I'm saying is, no one sees Killer Instinct and
thinks Microsoft.
Xbox.
Yeah.
Thinks Xbox specifically. Now that they've gotten rid of, they're not doing any more Viva Pinatas. They're not doing any more Banjo-Kazooie games, which even with nuts and bolts, I still don't think of Banjo-Kazooie as an Xbox brand.
No, it's still an N64 game to me.
I'm trying to think of any other...
I mean, you had Dead Rising, but Dead Rising eventually came to the PS3.
And Dead Rising 3 is the one we're on. That will eventually come to the PS4.
Yeah, I would say in like a year and a half.
Yeah, and Rise, I think, isn't doing the numbers that they wanted.
Well, and Rise is an original IP for the Xbox One. So, I mean, we may see a Rise 2, but I don't know how that game ends, if it even story works for that.
I think Rise, Rise has about the same amount of chance of seeing a sequel as Knack does.
Yeah,
and
I don't see Knack as getting a sequel anytime soon.
These early video game system franchises normally do get like a sequel just because your numbers didn't really merit. Your numbers merited it, but the product really didn't.
Yeah,
and because
that's because there was nothing else to buy when it came out.
When there was nothing else to buy. I think of Resistance. Even though Resistance 1 and 3 are incredibly solid, like Resistance 2, they kind of pushed out. They pushed it out before it was really done.
Yeah.
Because they were like, it sold a lot, and we don't really have anything for this hole in this holiday season.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Microsoft franchises.
But like,
I can't really think of a lot of other than Gears, Halo, and Forza. Like those are the three that
Gears,
you think of.
Halo, and Forza, and you can immediately knock those off with Uncharted,
Gran Turismo,
Ratchet and Clank, and tons more for Sony platforms.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well,
I was
I'm
just
just
trying to.
going
Yeah.
with
You
the
could,
first thing that popped in
You
my
could say
head.
like you could for the Sony side. Now this is partially because we're not really
You could say
Xbox
Killzone
people.
instead of Halo.
You could say Killzone instead of Halo, or you could say, I was going to say,
Or
you could
like-
say God of War instead of
On the
Gears
flip
of War.
side, on Nintendo, Mario Kart, Super Mario,
Yeah.
and Smash Brothers.
Like first party
and then
IPs.
tons of other IPs, both.
Yeah.
And I think Microsoft is in a position where they made the Xbox One. Damn it. They made the original Xbox, and it was going to be a media center. It was going to control your living
Yes.
room. And they got away from that, and they got into games too much.
Yes.
And then they made the Xbox 360. And Don Matrick came in and said, you guys are this is the wrong direction. We're going back. We're closing the game studio. We're going back into the
All-in-one box entertainment center.
And then the Xbox One comes out, and they realize, and I think the run-up for Xbox One is they don't have a lot of cards in their deck that people will just buy because, this is the next game, this is the next Ratchet, this is the next Smash Brothers. They were like, well, we have Halo, and we have Forza, and the new Halo game probably isn't going to be ready for launch.
No, it wasn't.
And the new Forza game really wasn't ready for launch, but we pushed it out anyway, and they ended up having to depend on third parties for things like Dead Rising 3, where that's not going to be on the Xbox in perpetuity.
To be fair, Sony had the same problem. They only
totally.
they only had 2 IPs that were all exclusive to the PS4,
Yes.
right? And then they had all of the EA games.
Well, but that's the thing. Sony's deck, on the other hand, has.
They have a lot more stuff in the books.
We're putting out Killzone. We're putting out Knack, but we also have the rights to Ratchet, the rights to Jak and Daxter,
An Uncharted game, a God of War game.
God of War,
Yeah. I get it.
PlayStation All Stars, Gran Turismo,
Yeah.
MotorStorm, whatever MotorStorm's becoming.
Mod Nation Racers.
Drive Club, Mod Nation, Little Big Planet. They have all these cards.
Yeah.
And the flip side, Nintendo has Mario, Zelda. Smash Brothers, Metroid,
Mario Party,
Mario Kart.
Anything that has Mario in the
Donkey Kong
title.
Country,
Yeah, they have all Microsoft is trying to make itself. It's trying to take away from the business that I think is actually helping it. Now, granted, they lose a shitload of money making games. They don't make a lot of money off of making games. It's all about licensing software.
And that's why they closed
a
the
lot
game
of their studios,
which turned out to be a bad idea.
Yeah, it is. So, Gears of War is now never going to see a PlayStation console, probably.
Which is weird, because when we were talking about PlayStation Now a few weeks ago, I actually mentioned that Gears of War could come to the PlayStation platform.
It could have at that point, but now, no, probably not.
Unless Microsoft folds. Their game division folds, which their game division is not profitable. The only profitable hardware division they have is the Xbox, but that is not. The Xbox and the game division are a small portion of a other pie that actually is profitable.
Yeah,
surprisingly, they're
software licensing for operating systems.
Their operating system, their software licensing, and their Office is still leader, which is why investors do talk about cutting the Xbox brand adrift because they think they could get more money. But in the same token, Sony investors talk about cutting Sony Studios adrift because they think they could get more money now instead of being invested later. Very weird, very odd.
And it would be bad for everybody if they did that, because then we wouldn't have any games to talk about.
Yep. But down in the comments, is there any brand you think Xbox should buy, any IP they should buy? I liked Blink's, the Time Cat. Was it Time Detective?
I have no idea.
It was on the Xbox One, and it was a cute little platformer.
The original Xbox, right?
Yes, the original Xbox.
God
damn it.
God, I hate that naming convention. It's such a pain in the ass.
It's worse than the Wii U.
It's confusing as hell.
So, yes, in the comments, let us know. Don't forget to spay and neuter Pokemon, and we'll see you next week with a topic that Dave gave away.
I'm sorry.